what we should probably look out for when looking for a new pup from a breeder.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big one, and it's probably something that we don't often ascribe a lot of thought to.
Yes.
I know it's very exciting, sort of getting a new pup to join the family, but we should probably do a bit more research and look closely into it. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. So the reason this week, really, I think it was something that cropped up quite early, is specifically here in South Africa. Now in the UK, not so much, but here in South Africa, I've been finding, so with my dog training clients, puppy clients, animal behaviour, there's a lot of people out there that are first-time dog owners or animal owners in general.
Yes.
And also with no family history of having, because quite often people maybe will grow up with a dog in the background, have had some kind of exposure to animals.
Yes.
But I'm finding here in SA a lot more than I've seen in the UK of first time dog owners. So it's stuff that for people that have in the dog community, grown up around dogs, you kind of take for granted as knowledge that you know.
True. Yes.
But maybe perhaps for a lot of people, they just don't really know where to start, where to ask. And it was a phone call from a client she was ringing about puppies and puppy training because she wanted to get a pup. And she was looking at a breeder, and a few things that she said kind of worried me a little bit. I think one of them was, it was the one she was looking at was at the vet's at the moment because it wasn't eating very well.
Okay.
But the breeder in other ways sounded like was good in her eyes, so she was thinking, and to me that raised a few warning bells.
It should, yes.
So then I thought, and then she was like, well, it's okay, so what do I look for? And she asked me, so I kind of wrote out a list for her of questions she should ask and things. So I thought, actually, let's put that out there as a bit of info.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because unfortunately in our line of work we do see the bad side.
All too often, yes. And the back end of these dogs coming to a new home and just not settling in okay, and new owners just not being able to cope. And then also the other side on the end of breeders where perhaps almost like these little puppy mills, sort of happening, that type of situation. And a lot of puppies and breeding animals being rescued from those environments, and that's what we see.
Yes.
And of course, I think this is why it's so important to have this discussion and just talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So we're not anti-breeders.
No, not at all.
Definitely not anti-breeders, but we need to make sure as people that are purchasing pups, give your money to the right people.
Yes.
So, I mean, from a personal perspective, if you can, try and adopt from a rescue because there are plenty of puppies there. Yes. So if you haven't got any, you don't really want a certain breed, then perhaps have a look at your local shelter.
Yeah.
But we're not putting down breeders, we're just saying that there are some amazing ones out there.
Absolutely, yes.
And you usually have to pay more for them.
Yes.
And rightly so, because of the amount of work they put into making sure when you take that puppy home at around 9 weeks old, that you're off to the best start. The ones that are a little lower in price, you're probably not sure what you're getting.
Yes.
And you may be one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
Who does get a good one.
Yes, it does happen.
Yeah.
But probably the onus is on the person that's going to put the money down. Yes, to do the research and be well within right to ask the questions and do the research, do your due diligence because there are really good breeders out there and good puppies.
Yes. So let's start with number 1.
Yeah.
So we've got about seven. Kind of narrowed it down to about 7. There are plenty more things that you can kind of get into, but I think these are your starter Start at 7.
Yeah, there's the basics, and I think maybe top of the list should be meet the parents,
Yes.
meet the parents of your potential new little pup that's coming home. And you certainly can ask the breeder, to have a look at mum and dad.
Yes.
And most breeders will be open to that. It is worthwhile just going to their, sort of home environment where they're kept, where they're bred, and, just check out the surroundings there as well. Often the dad may not be a live-in dad.
Just stops by every 6 months.
That does happen.
Yeah.
But there too, you could certainly ask the breeder that you're in touch with whether you could meet the dad as well. Sometimes it is the case where semen is imported, and that might be a little bit tricky then, but you can ask the questions, about the dad and where he comes from and his line and his lineage, and of course the same with mum.
Yes, and things that you, I suppose, would see with mum, especially. Mum should definitely be around. There should be no excuses why you shouldn't see mum.
Absolutely.
And her sociability. So, is she good with people? Because you're a stranger walking into their house.
Yes.
But if you're looking for a pet, a well-rounded pet, then that should be shown in mum.
Absolutely.
So if she doesn't like people, if she is kind of very wary of you when you arrive, chances are the pup you take home will be the same. Does she look healthy?
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's maybe skin coat condition you can see. So those are the things that definitely there should be no excuses why you can't see mum.
Absolutely. And I suppose while you're checking out mum and the living environment, you could probably also get a fair assessment of, mum's age, dad's age as well.
Yes.
If not, ask the breeder, sort of how old the parents are.
Yes.
You certainly don't want parents that are way too young, and of course on the other side of the spectrum way too old as well. So there is an ideal, sort of breeding time frame. What would you say? Sort of between say 2 or maybe 3 years?
I think definitely at least 3 for the mum. Definitely, just for her. Puppies can breed from their first season, which is around 6 months of age. But they're still a baby themselves. Definitely wait for them to get a little bit older, and also a lot of your medical conditions are not seen in a young pup. 6 months of age, things like skin conditions or eye issues or hip problems, those kind of things are not shown in a young puppy. They're definitely under a year, if not under 2 years. Some things may not develop until later, so you could be breeding from a dog that's going to be showing those signs in a couple of years.
Yes.
So definitely wait till there's some maturity there.
Absolutely, that definitely is a good one, sort of to check. And a lot of all this information can come from just a quick little visit.
Definitely. And then living conditions as well, I would say. So maybe you meet them outside in the yard, but it's good to know where does mum and pups sit. If they're not house dogs, again, in other countries a little bit different, but here in South Africa, a lot of our dogs are still kept outdoors.
Right.
If you're looking for an indoor dog, a dog that stays in your house, maybe you'll be getting a pup who has never been inside a house, doesn't know that kind of environment, those kind of noises.
Yes.
Just know that could affect the kind of puppy you're bringing home.
Absolutely.
So if you've seen a pup from this breeder, but they are outdoor kennelled, maybe you want to have a chat with the breeder about giving it some experience inside the home.
That's it.
And if you look and there's a kennel and there's the dog's just toilet everywhere and it's there and it's not cleaned up, but warning signals again, because those puppies are often the ones that are terrible to toilet train.
Right.
Because from a young age, puppies naturally, they've got their bed area,
yes,
and then they'll go out to another area to toilet. and then they'll come back to their bed area, and most of the time their bed area is kept quite clean.
Yes.
As soon as they can kind of navigate and move themselves away enough, then that's kind of naturally what they do. But if those environments are not being cleaned up, then they kind of start to get into the habit of just going anywhere. And those are the ones that in a home environment, and the owner's like, oh, it's peeing and pooing on his bed. Things that can help you have a well-rounded pet. Start there, start from that brooder, what they're doing in their environment.
Early on, it's so important to and exactly as you, it brings us back to that very first point that you made, that there are very good breeders that would ensure that all these little things, they seem like little things, but all these little processes are built on, from birth. Those are very important foundational little basics, to have in place, and well within your rights to ask and check and go and see that's been done.
Absolutely. So that brings us to something along the lines of socialisation. Which a lot of people, especially first-time dog owners, don't realise how short the socialisation window is for a pup.
What is it?
So it normally starts at around 3 weeks of age, and the end is breed dependent, but we kind of normally say around 4 months of age. So during that time is where a puppy can be exposed to novel things like noises or environments, people, and not get that automatic fear. Sometimes they may startle, but they should kind of quickly recover. It's after that 4 months that anything that they haven't experienced within those first weeks, they can treat with suspicion. And so those are the kind of dogs that we see that are very nervous, are kind of wary. So if they've never been exposed to people very much, after that 4 months of age, it's not saying that they can never be okay with them, but you've got an uphill battle. And I personally find that you're always having to kind of be on top of that kind of environment. So for my dog Dolly, so she was in the SPCA, I think, from as soon as they were weaned off of mum, and I think I picked her up, she was about 3.5, 4 months of age. And I think because of her breed type, that socialisation window was definitely closed by the time she kind of came to us. So men or people in general, when we went to meet her, she didn't kind of want to greet us. She was quite wary of us, even at 3 months of age. We went to visit her before we got the home visit, and we could take her home. So even that early on, so we knew. So she is friendly with people that she knows. But anybody new, I need to know that we need to have a positive introduction. And then she quickly, food's involved, and I'm there, and everything. It happens quite quickly, and she's like won over. But there's that wariness always there at the beginning. So knowing if you've got a pup that hasn't been exposed to certain things, that you're going to be battling that, definitely.
Absolutely.
So socialisation, there's so much that the breeder can do. So noises. So in South Africa, we have our stormy season in the summer. We have thunderstorms. So the pups that are born around that time usually are fine with them. If they have no negative experience during that time, then they're usually fine with them as they grow, and they don't really have a problem. But those pups that are born in our winter months, where we don't have those noises.
Interesting one,
once by the time they're maybe 6 months of age, and then the summer starts and those huge thunderstorms start. They're like, what is this? I've lived 6 months and I've never experienced this before. So you're a breeder, and then when you take that pup home, you should be playing those tracks, those sounds of fireworks, those sounds of thunderstorms. Experience with children, if you're going to take a pup home to a house full of children, definitely either you go to the breeder and have some interaction, or you should be seeing men, women inside the house, car journeys, all those kind of things. Some breeds, if you're getting a breed that is typically known to be bred to be more suspicious of strangers, so like your German Shepherds, your Malinois, your Rottweilers, like guardian breeds, those kind of dogs. If you're taking that dog into a pet home, then definitely the parents should be well-rounded pet dogs. But those dogs will need extra socialisation. So you need to work a little bit harder than perhaps say a Labrador who has a lineage of kind of loving everybody.
Yes.
Generations of being that super dog.
Yes.
So yeah, if you're looking for a particular breed, because you like that breed, just make sure you're getting a well socialised pup, because it'll save you a lot of heartache in the future, a lot of work, because it's not. I have 2 dogs who are a little bit special, right? And there's some things, negative experiences and things that happen that we can't help, but if you make sure at least there's some good foundations.
That's it.
And from 3 weeks, these puppies, their eyes have kind of not been open for long. They're just getting mobile, so it's super early.
Yes.
But they are experiencing the world, even though it doesn't seem like they're doing much.
Right.
This is all good time, and experiences though must be positive ones.
Yes.
It's not just about going to put them in a room with a whole load of noises and say get used to it.
Yes, you figure it out.
It's like playing and feeding with those things going on.
Yes.
So they've experienced it, but in a good way. So your breeder can do so from 3 weeks till 9 weeks. That's a lot of weeks of experiences that they can have.
Absolutely, and it's a huge responsibility for a breeder, and I'm sure most breeders understand that and put the work in and do it right. And it's well worth just making sure that it's been done. Or if it's not been done, that you at least know what to expect. Sort of as you bring this little puppy home, and work that needs to go in. After.
Because you say you're getting 9 weeks, you've got maybe another month,
another gap. Yes.
Maybe you can do a little bit of work there. So you need to do those things. So it's just having your expectations, knowing what's happened to the pup before.
Yes. And I suppose in that space of time when the breeder has these little pups, and of course mum, vet checks and vet visits and all the fundamental health issues that need to be sort of addressed at that time is quite important as well.
Definitely.
So we probably just need to make sure that deworming and the first vaccinations have been done. Certainly by the time that little puppy is handed over, it should be beyond that age, and certainly not sooner, before all these little essential health checks have been done. That age is normally around 8 weeks, I would say, for a puppy.
So really they should be weaned-ish by around 6 weeks, but they normally stay if they can kind of get that social training with their siblings and with mum as well. Sometimes we find pups that leave the litter too early can have some issues. But there may be some circumstances where perhaps mum isn't a good mum, or there's only one in the litter. Maybe those ones can leave a little earlier, but I wouldn't say any earlier than 6 weeks of age. And then 6 weeks of age is when they can have their first vaccines, here in this country anyway. So at least they should have at least one vaccine and at least be flea and worm treated. And they should have had maybe a few doses of flea and worm treatment, because some medications you can give them about 2 weeks of age. And ideally mum and dad would have been had their flea and worm control and vaccinations, so that there's some antibodies for the pups and there's no parasites to be passed on. So it's hard for you to check mum and dad's status. Maybe you can ask the breeder, but definitely you should be getting a vaccination certificate with the description of your puppy and to the vet that they've been to, and hopefully that vet would have picked up if there was any congenital problems when they do their initial first check.
Yes, absolutely. And I suppose one could ask for some sort of proof for vet checks and vet visits for mum and dad. And that's not only for general health things like vaccinations and dewormings, but some of these more intensive genetic hereditary things that can pop up, sort of within breeding stock, and of course litters that come from there. I suppose particularly from an eye point of view, genetic hereditary eye diseases are a big thing. In a number of breeds, and some are well known and well described, and we would naturally know to ask and check for that, but some maybe not so much. But definitely ask, definitely ask.
So where would someone go? So say I wanted a Labrador.
Right.
How would I know what it should
be?
Have been genetically checked for?
Right.
Where's my kind of best source of info?
The breeder would have then had their mum or dad that they're breeding with checked by a veterinary ophthalmologist. That would be the ideal situation. For instance, the breed like the Labrador, they are genetically prone to things like cataracts and degenerative diseases of the retina, specifically that we know as PRA or progressive retinal atrophy. Now, these things can sometimes only manifest later on in life, so from about middle age to older age. And this goes back to your other point about, sort of not having parents or puppies from a parent that is way too young before they've been able to manifest some of these signs or symptoms of specifically genetic diseases. But yes, a veterinary ophthalmologist would probably be able to check yearly for signs and symptoms of these hereditary diseases, and they are quite obvious. So sometimes even a general vet can pick up these signs and just have it then be referred to an ophthalmologist to be checked as well. But following an examination, what we know as a hereditary eye test examination, a veterinary ophthalmologist would be able to sign off a certificate stating whether these signs or symptoms are present, or if there are symptoms that are suspicious for some of these diseases, because of course some of these signs can mean pretty much anything in some scenarios. So either a signed certificate saying it's either present or not. And of course these checks are done yearly, or they should be done yearly. So if there are things that creep up, sort of in between breeding seasons or litters that do come about, at least we've got this little check that happens routinely on a yearly basis, and will help us in our decision making. So yes, you could definitely ask for whether this has been done and how frequently it's been done.
Yes, so look for an up-to-date certificate.
Absolutely.
Not if a folded up certificate from 5 years ago.
And another big thing there, is just make sure that that certificate matches the actual breeding animal.
So what did you put microchip numbers or something?
Microchip numbers, yes, that's a good way, to track and trace and make sure that the identification has been done properly. So that's a good way to check. And then also more recently, DNA testing is a very good way of determining whether this gene is present, sort of in the individual, the breeding individual, or somewhere in the line. And as you know, genetics is it's a very complicated, sort of field, and carrying a gene may not mean that you actually manifest or show signs, sort of the disease. So I would say the two go hand in hand. Looking regularly, testing regularly by looking for signs and symptoms, and then doing the DNA testing, which probably your breeder should be doing. And there are a number of these diseases, some outside of the ophthalmology field, sort of other systemic general diseases as well that can be genetically tested for. And you can ask for proof. You can ask for proof for whether the test has been done, and of course the results of those tests.
Definitely a matter of making sure that you don't get put off by that initial price if they have the proof that all that work has been put in. Then it's well worth handing over that money, because it's going to cost you a lot less than those monthly vet bills.
Absolutely.
And the heartache of having a sick dog.
Yes, and that's often the hardest, to deal with. particularly, sort of knowing that some of these things could have been manipulated or prevented, sort of beforehand.
Yes.
It's a big one here.
Yeah. Dobermans are another breed that are having major issues because of the breeding that's happened in the past. That you're pretty much guaranteed a Doberman with a heart issue, at least one or two in the litter. So that's another breed that are trying to fight to save the breed because these amazing dogs are passing away way too young. And things that could definitely have been
absolutely. And I suppose some of the rare breeds like in this country, we have selected breeds that we don't see that many of, and they become then very sought after. Because of their unique traits. I think Dobermans are definitely one of them in this country, that's for sure. We could name a few Weimaraners and some of your water dogs and some of your herding dogs as well. So just to be wary in that scenario that we are dealing with a fairly limited gene pool, sort of across the country, it's quite an outlay for a breeder then to bring in and import sort of new genes or fresh genes. Just be wary of that aspect of your more rare or unique or limited sort of breeds in the country. Just try and ask or inquire sort of where the genes are coming from, where the lines are coming from. And if it's a history of a very long line of just within this country or very selected breeding parents that have been used over and over and over again, chances of manifesting some of your recessive genes and diseases that manifest from that point of view becomes a little bit higher. Genetics complicated. The more we know, the easier it is to sort of make informed decisions.
I think those are our main points. Again, there's so much, especially different breeds related as well. And it also kind of depends on what you want from a pup.
Yes.
Most of our clients, most people are looking just for family pets. And that's kind of those is what we're aiming to cover. But if maybe you want a sport dog, then you would be looking at other things, asking the breed different questions. Or if you're looking for a more security type dog, again, they're different. You maybe don't want that dog socialised with anybody, being friends with every man that they see. Know how your ideal would be that dog slots into your family.
That's right.
And I think it's important for us before we end to say just red flags that would worry us.
Yes.
So as I said, that client that I'm now seeing. So the initial breeder was, the puppy's in the vet at the moment, but you can take it when it comes home.
Right.
Huge red flag.
Yes.
Health problems from the start. I just said to her, no, we'll find somebody else. And she did, and she has a pup, but this puppy did come with Giardia.
Oh gosh, yes.
And from after, when I went to see her, I spoke to her, and it turns out I think the breeder did know some of the things that happened. And it sounded more like, again, that there was maybe a more of a business aspect. She had these puppies at this age, or maybe these puppies that were maybe a month older.
Right.
And I think there comes, yes, people do breed many litters.
Yes.
But there comes a point where it becomes, I think, more of a business rather than just an ethical breeder.
That's it.
And I think that's the difficult balance to find. Is at the end of the day, a good breeder should be somebody who's trying to preserve the breed.
Yes.
Who loves the breed.
Yes.
So if you've got someone who says, I've got this breed, I've got this Pomeranian, but I also have Dobermans, I have German Shepherds, I have this, I have that.
Major red flags.
Yes. Run. Those are the kind of people that I think you need support from the breeder. So this puppy went home, wasn't eating very well, and was told by the person, "Oh, just if it's not eating, just rub some honey on its gums."
Okay.
Yes. So she told me this. So she said to me, "Oh, she's not eating very well." I'm like, "Okay." I'm a little bit worried that I don't know. Obviously, she's home and it's a new environment, but she's a young puppy. And she said, "Oh no, I contacted them and they told me to rub honey." And I said, "That's a temporary measure for a sick dog before you take it to a vet."
Yes.
I said, "If you have to rub honey on gums, we're talking that your dog has low glucose. There's a reason for low glucose. You need to go to a vet." So thankfully she went to the vet, was diagnosed with Giardia. So she had a rough couple of days where the dog was kind of waking up a lot in the night to go to the toilet. The dog was quiet.
Yes.
Then it was diagnosed with that. But then she kind of mentioned before about how that when the dog went home, or she just gave it an injection in case it was sick in the car. But again, I think that was to do with the fact that the dog had not been very well.
Right.
Red flags, lots of pups, lots of different breeds, definitely.
Yes.
And you want some kind of contract between you and the breeder that they will take the pup back, offer you support.
Yes.
A good breeder wants to know that their dogs have gone to a good home.
Absolutely.
So they should be like any problems. So Archie, my most recent dog, so he was fostered by Claire on Instagram. She's Meet the Fosters, so she does fostering for different charities.
Okay.
And she was like, "If things don't work out, just tell me and I'll come and take him back." And she's a foster mum. She's got no commitment. She doesn't have to. Because so when Archie came into our house, him and Dolly didn't get on very well, and she was like, no, anytime. And she tells all of her foster, all the fosters that she gives to permanent homes, if there's a problem, I will take them back, and that's what you want from a breeder, because they should be interested in where their pups are going, those dogs that they've bred. Even if your circumstances change 2-3 years down the line, it shouldn't be that responsibility for that dog that they have bred goes to a rescue.
Right.
Because there's a reason rescues are so full, is because all these dogs have come from somewhere and their home that was supposed to be their permanent home is not any longer, and then they go fill up the rescue kennel. So definitely, if you're a breeder, it's your responsibility. If that home doesn't work out, you need to work out another home for that dog.
Absolutely.
So the responsibility is with them. So check with them for some kind of support, or they will support you through a challenging time. You don't have to go take your dog that you've had for 1 or 2 days straight to the vet.
That shouldn't be the case. Absolutely.
I think if you start with these ideas or these questions, it definitely will start you off on a much better footing.
Absolutely. And if you're ever unsure, chat to someone who would know. Chat to your vet. Chat to sort of other pet families that maybe have recently taken on or adopted or bought in a new breed puppy. Chat, ask the questions, find out. You're not on your own. Not on your own, particularly for first time pet owners.
Overwhelming it is anyway to have a pup, even if you're inexperienced. I always say that to new puppy owners. I'm like, someone who've been working with animals for years and years. But you give me a puppy, I'm like, whoa. Take a breath. Yes, we can get through this.
Of course, there's that romantic side, which we all probably go into looking for and hoping for and wanting as the outcome. But it's literally like getting a newborn baby. It comes with a whole other side dimension. So well worth it. Well worth it doing the research.
Definitely. So that's it.
Nice.
Yes. So if anyone's got any other topics that they want us to cover, contact us. I'll put the contact details up. But otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Perfect.